Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So in this one here, I wanted to talk about episode 7 and break everything down in here. This episode really was like a setup episode for the finale. And I think it was very much needed because of, well, I think the characters and where their mindset was at. I was wondering like, how would one character specifically, be in the finale because he hasn't really been like his old self that they've talked about all season, or at least going into the season, that's what they were talking about, that this character would eventually become his old self. And I was like, is that actually going to happen? And it seems like it's going to happen, but actually, if anything, it's going to be a lot worse now. So yeah, we'll get into all that. So before we go any further, I do have to warn you that this will contain spoilers for The Walking Dead Dead City season 2 episode 7. And and also I'm going to be having some videos out later on, a trailer breakdown for the finale, as well as a couple of other videos talking about the big reveal in this episode. So yeah, a lot to talk about right now. So definitely make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. But let's get into the episode here. So this episode begins with Maggie finding the Croat, and honestly, I was not expecting the storyline at all. I really thought that the Croat was going to be a villain, and I feel like maybe it is still possible, but with where they left things off here in this episode, it's a little, it's kind of hard to predict where things are going to go, because did the Croat redeem himself? Like, I feel like to some people he did, but to others, no, not really. Like, it's one of those things that it's kind of hard to say as of right now, because is Maggie cool with him? I guess so. Like, she was the one person I thought that wouldn't be, right? But we'll see where things go in the finale here. Like, at this point here, it looks like it's literally all of them against Dama pretty much at this point, right? And Negan, we'll talk about his story right away, but it looks like he's going to be going down a crazy path here, and I'm really interested in seeing where this is going to go. Like, is he going to be a villain in season 3? Because, you could really see that happening here, especially with what he said at the end of the episode, and we'll talk about that, but like, I'm just really trying to think of where all the characters are going to be going, by the finale here. We have one more episode left, and then after that, it's season 3, right? And I'm just so curious on like where that is going for season 3, because if the characters are where they're at right now, it's going to be interesting. And that's why when I look at the Croat and his storyline with Maggie in this episode, it really feels like maybe the Croat is going to die in the finale, because stories like that happen a lot. Whenever you have to like introduce a character, let's say, and the character is a villain character and, does all these horrible things, and eventually when a character is about to die, they have some of these moments like this, right? And that's just sort of what's been in my mind the entire time, is like, this is like the Croat's episode, or they're trying to make us sympathize with him quite a bit. And I feel like that could be what's happening here, is we're going to see the Croat actually die here very soon. I guess in the finale. And yeah, I will say if that does happen, they've been really, giving the character a lot of story here. I think Dama is gone as well. I really do think that both of them are most likely gone, but it would be cool to see the Croat in season 3 as well, because I think that they could do a lot with his character. We'll have to wait and see. Honestly, I really don't know where they're going to go. And so for Negan, his story was really interesting. So he does see Lucille very early on, actually, in the very beginning moments of the episode. That was kind of surprising. I wasn't expecting that. I knew that she probably would show up here and there, but yeah, that was surprising. And he talks to Benjamin about like, helping her and whatnot. And he actually talks about Annie and Joshua, which is really cool. And I really liked that, because the way he was acting there, talking about them, it was just like, okay, they're really committed to the storyline here, because it really felt like, at least after, season 11, like going into Dead City, that like they were trying to ignore that storyline. And it really seems like they're actually going back to it now and really just like committing to that. Like Annie and Joshua are going to be a part of the story, even though you don't really actually see them here. I think we're going to see them in the finale. And that's kind of where I'm a little bit concerned about some of the characters and like what could happen here. Like, the characters could just be there, and that would be really cool for season 3, because you're having a lot more cast from The Walking Dead, right? Like, that'd be really awesome. But I just have this feeling that some characters that we expect to die aren't, and then the characters that aren't going to die, or we would just never think like, yeah, they're never going to kill that character off, and yeah, they're going to die in this episode. Because I don't know, I just have this feeling that Annie's going to die in next week's episode, because why is Negan crying, right? Like, if you look at a lot of the previews and whatnot, a lot of the scenes that we see that are actually now happening in the finale, I'm just wondering if Annie's going to be a death. Honestly, I don't know how I feel about it overall. I would have to see, I guess, how the story plays out. But yeah, I don't know. I just have this feeling that someone's going to die. Like, maybe it's Ginny, I could see how that would play out. I mean, even though, he did get the medicine and everything like that, I could see, maybe she just dies because, I don't know, like maybe Bruegel ends up killing her, or it's like the Croat, or again, I don't know, like I had predictions on a lot of that, but the Croat right now seems to be having like a redemption arc, which is like really interesting. But Negan in this episode has a mission, and that is to go to the hospital and get supplies. And so that was the one thing that I really liked about this episode, is that this really felt like a classic Walking Dead episode. Like, this was one of those episodes, throughout a Walking Dead season that was really just like, these characters are going to be going to, on a mission to this place, and they're going to get supplies. And then there's going to be all this emotional stuff happening. They'll run into a character, or this thing might happen, and then they come back. And then that's the end right there. They made it back, and, like they learned a lot of stuff, I guess, on their way or on that journey, right? And so that's kind of what it felt like here for Maggie and Negan. I do get the complaints if this episode felt a little bit slower, just because obviously it's the episode before the finale. To me, honestly, it's always going to be either this one's the biggest one, or the finale. It's never going to be both episodes being like the biggest episodes, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense to do it like that, right? Like, you're going to have the big episode be either the finale or the penultimate episode, which is the episode before the finale, right? So this one here really felt like a lot of buildup for a lot of just craziness to happen in the finale. And I mean, we've seen a lot of stuff from other trailers and stuff. Like the trailer for the finale here, I mean, obviously gets into some stuff there, but there was a lot of stuff like Negan crying, right? Like, that's going to be like, I don't know why he's crying, like what's going on there. So the finale is going to be a really big episode. I think it's going to wrap up a couple of arcs here, at least when it comes to Dama and the Croat. I think that a lot of those storylines will end, and I think we're going to get, I guess some of the groups sort of worked out overall. We'll see where New Babylon is, if they join Bruegel, and Negan, is Maggie going to join him, or what's going to happen there? Because I do think that there's going to be like an actual like battle starting here. There's not going to be a war or anything like that, I don't think, in the finale. I think a lot of that's going to be in season 3, but I think they're building up this stuff here. And I do think that they've honestly done a really great job with that. Like, I think season 1 was really just like, here's New York City, and here's Maggie and Negan, and they're there, right? And so season 2, you kind of got back to a little bit more of the classic Walking Dead storytelling, and so you kind of had to like branch out from like where you were, and then just sort of build up on everything, build up the world a little bit, and kind of go everywhere, right? And so I think they've done that here, and they're establishing a lot of things, and so I feel like we're starting to understand a lot of where the story is here. Like, I really kind of feel like this is very similar to The Walking Dead's first 3 seasons. The first season was just like a really cool standalone, like, survival story, ended with the whole CDC thing. Season 2 and 3, it kind of felt like season 2 was like, it was building off of that. It was very slow, and it built up all the characters until the end. And then I feel like going into season 3, we had our group after. We knew where everyone was, and they were trying to survive and all of that. And I kind of feel like that's what's happening here, is that throughout season 2, they've been building up a lot of the characters, a lot of just what's been going on, and some characters are going to die, and I think that's what they're building here overall with season 2, because I think season 3 is going to be a lot more exciting in terms of the battles and stuff like that, and a lot of that happening. So for me, going into this episode, I kind of knew that, it was either going to be a really big episode, or it was going to be a slower episode, but you just had to kind of watch to see, and it looks like the finale is going to be a really big episode. Benjamin doesn't even remember anything before the apocalypse happened. He was like 10 years old or something like that is what he said, and he doesn't really remember a lot of what the world was like. He's trying to remember, but he doesn't really remember a lot of it, and it really got me thinking, because Carl was the same age, right? Like, he was around that age anyways, so it's kind of similar. Like, Carl would be like, what, mid-20s right now or something like that, and that is something that does, it's so unfortunate. It really is. Like, it's one of those things where it's just like, if the character could still be alive right now, like, honestly, I don't think a lot of people would be that upset if Rick wasn't on The Walking Dead if we had Carl. Like, I think that that's the one thing about it. Like, if Rick wasn't on the show, Carl could be there, right? And Carl could lead his own show. A lot of people would watch for Carl, right? Because, I mean, it's Carl, right? Like, he's been there since season 1. So it's one of those things that is just like, you see, Benjamin mention that, and you're just like, oh man, like, Carl could have been like literally that age as well, and been like a main character, right? And like had a lot of dialogue and all that. Because Carl on the show, he was getting a lot more screen time towards the end, but like, obviously at this point here, it would be very different. Like, he would get a lot of screen time because he would be like a main character. The characters, though, in this episode go on their missions. We see Negan go to the hospital, and Maggie actually travels to, I guess, the tower to see if Hershel is there. And so, a lot of traps along the way. That was kind of Interesting. I thought the whole thing with the traps was, I mean, I just started thinking about like how a lot of that would make sense, but like, it's one of those things where when you look back at The Walking Dead, like even season 10 and all that, right? Like back then there were a lot of traps that looked very similar. So like the realistic part to all of it, I think makes a lot of sense. Like once you start to think about it like that, like, well, The Walking Dead did a lot of that. If you think about like The Walking Dead season 10, I mean, there was a lot of stuff, you know, I guess early on in Alexandria as well. Like there was just some stuff back then that like eventually this stuff was going to happen, like traps like this would happen. It's just that when you see some of that stuff happening, you're just like, I just don't know how that makes, I mean, I guess it makes sense. It's just that, I don't know, like I feel like that'd be so stressful to have to go through all of those traps all the time, every time you wanted to go up there. Like that's just kind of a lot. I don't know. I also have some questions on why Maggie was hallucinating, because I didn't really understand that. I didn't really get the explanation throughout the episode as well. Like I know she was going through a lot of stuff and like I get that part to it, but she was hallucinating quite a bit and I just didn't really fully understand that. Like I know that Negan, he's been going through a lot. We've seen that throughout the entire season here. He's been going through so much stuff. But Maggie, I mean, I guess she has been going through a lot, but I don't know, like she was like really, really hallucinating where she was almost like passing out. So like, I didn't really get what was happening there. I still don't really understand what was happening. I just thought that was kind of a little weird. I thought that maybe it was like the methane or something like that the Croat was using, but yeah, I don't know. The story for Negan in this episode, which I mentioned before, it was a really cool like survival story. Like I think for Maggie's story, it was kind of like that, but the Croat was there, so it didn't really feel like this like standalone story in this episode, you know, because the Croat was there. But for Negan, it was like that because like he was by himself pretty much the entire time besides who he was hallucinating, right? And a lot of the hospital scenes were just absolutely insane. I really was not expecting a lot of that, like just a lot of the zombies and whatnot. And also I do want to mention those zombies are sleeper zombies or sleeper walkers, I guess. I guess they just call them sleepers, but that's, yeah, they're walkers that basically are just kind of asleep and you have to kind of wake them up in order for them to be, you know, like normal walkers or whatever. So we actually encountered these walkers quite a bit throughout The Walking Dead. Like in season 11 as well, we actually saw them there. I think it was in the first episode, but I could be wrong, like the first episode of season 11. But yeah, those were sleeper zombies, which was kind of cool to see. Maggie also in this episode was scared of heights, and that was something that we learned, I mean, quite a while ago, I would say. That's the one thing that with the spinoffs, you know, you do see quite a bit is like a lot of the focus on these characters, like, you know, just this intensely where it's like all of their fears and all of that, you know, it becomes a part of the storyline, or like certain things, like you just go more in depth with all of the characters. Like on The Walking Dead, we never would have gotten an episode like this, really. Like having the story just, you know, all about Maggie and her fear of heights, really, right? Like that just wouldn't have been a big storyline at all in The Walking Dead. But because this show is, you know, just on two characters from The Walking Dead, you're actually able to go more in depth on all of that, right? So yeah, I thought that was kind of cool there. And I will say for Negan and all the hallucination scenes, that I actually really did like, and I was actually kind of surprised by that. So he does see Lucille, and so a lot of how this scene plays out here is he sees Lucille and he just kind of breaks down and apologizes for everything. And Lucille is just like, well, no, you were there. Like you helped me, you know, get ready in the morning, this and that. And he's like, no, that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough. And so Lucille obviously wasn't there, but she was saying a lot of the stuff that, you know, I guess Negan always tells himself kind of thing, right? Like, you know, but you did this stuff, like you did this, you did that. But I think for him, he's just like, you know what, it wasn't enough though. Like I wasn't actually really there for you kind of thing. And I think that that was something that, you know, for the storyline here to actually really admit that and all of that, I think it really built up to who he was by the end of the episode, because then he sees Annie and Joshua, and that was absolutely incredible. I thought that that right there was like, again, once you saw Annie and Joshua there, it was just like immediately I was like, okay, these characters need to be a part of the show. Like I want them on this show. So we'll see where it goes in the finale. I hope that the characters weren't actually sent back, because if they were, that's kind of unfortunate, to be honest. I don't think the characters were. I do think they're probably going to be in the finale. I just hope that they survive. Like, that's one of the things with the show here is like, they're building all this stuff up here. Are they going to kill the characters off in the finale? Like, I really, really hope not, but we'll have to wait until the finale to really see, right? So I thought that all of that there was really amazing. And really, honestly, like after all of that there, that's where Negan was like, all right, I'm back. And actually, I'm back and better than ever, right? Because he actually makes it back. And he actually makes it all the way back to Ginny. And yeah, he gives her the medicine and everything like that. And I really like the line, but I don't remember exactly what the line was. But basically, he kind of says, you know, he showed mercy when he was the leader of the Saviors because, you know, he would line them all up and he would only kill one person. But now he's going to line them all up and kill them all. Like that right there, I was like, whoa, like he really reminded me of the governor there. And not like the show governor, but the comic version of the governor, because the comic version of the character is really, really like absolutely insane and just like kills everyone. So if Negan is going to be going down this route for his story, which I think this is exactly where he should be going, this is going to get really exciting for season 3. And I hope that it's not something that ends in the finale. I hope that like we're going to see a bunch of stuff happen here in the finale and then he just goes absolutely just crazier, because I really want to see that again. I really do. Like, I don't want it to be something where he comes back a little bit and it's just like, no, okay, that was a little bit too much, because obviously there's scenes where he's like crying and stuff and that's fine, but maybe that crying turns to anger and all of that, right? Because that's what we want to see. We want to see all of that happen. And if you look at the trailer, like he's actually using Lucille. He hasn't really used Lucille yet, right? Like he hasn't used the bat at all. I mean, maybe a couple of times with some walkers, you know, in a couple of episodes, but like he hasn't really used the bat. And in the trailer, he says, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. So you know that that's going to be happening here. It's just, yeah, I'm really curious as to what's actually going to happen here in this episode. But yeah, he's back now. Like he's actually back. And this is going to get really, really exciting here. As for Maggie and her storyline, the Croat at the end kind of reveals that I guess he already knew this place. I didn't really catch a lot of that, so I do apologize, but at the end he was saying something like, oh, I just wanted your help because, you know, I've always wanted to be here because Dama used to come up here, this and that, and I've always wanted to be here, and I just was never able to actually come up here before, and like you helped me get up here. And so I don't know if that was exactly what the storyline was there. I do apologize. I kind of missed that there. But then Maggie actually sees a light in a building, and yeah, that's Hershel. So eventually she actually goes there. The Croat does leave, and so yeah, the Croat doesn't actually learn that Dama is there. So that's going to be a really big reveal for the character, I think, in the last episode, because he's going to find out, obviously. And so that'll be exciting to see, you know, how he reacts and like what Dama does. I also want to see what Dama's plan is now, because everyone has betrayed her. She can really only trust Hershel. Is she going to get Maggie on her side? I don't think so, but we'll have to wait and see where that goes. And so, yeah, let's actually talk about that. So Dama is actually back, and that was something that I really was kind of expecting. I know that a lot of people were calling me crazy, like, you know, and I've done a couple of videos talking about that, especially recently because of that one image. I was like, that has to be her, like that has to be Dama. And yeah, we get the confirmation in this episode here that it is actually her. She did survive. I imagine in episode 8 we're going to learn exactly how she did and all of that there. But it was a really shocking moment because I guess if you weren't expecting it and like you watched the episode like that, you'd be like, wait, what? Right? So I was kind of expecting it, and as soon as she was up there, I was like, well, where's Dama? Like, she has to show up at some point. And yeah, obviously she did there at the end. So that was a really crazy cliffhanger, or I guess ending for the episode. Like, if you had no idea that that was going to happen, or like you really thought she was gone, like that was definitely a big surprise. But I'll talk about that more in depth later on. I'll talk about where her storyline could be and just sort of, you know, the scene in general in a video later on today. So yeah, overall, I would say that this episode was an all right episode. You know, was this my favorite of the season? No, definitely not. I think it was a really good, like, classic Walking Dead episode. Like, you can look back at a lot of stories throughout The Walking Dead where it's like a character literally just went on a supply run and a bunch of stuff happened and they made it back. Like, there were so many episodes in The Walking Dead that were really like that. And this episode here really felt like it was that, pretty much. Like, it was just one of those episodes where not a lot happened and it just focused a lot on, I guess, the characters, I guess, you know, learning a little bit more about themselves. And at the end of the episode, they became different people, right? Like, Maggie almost, I guess, got over her fear of heights. I mean, not necessarily, but, you know, she did that whole thing there where she sort of like confronted the Croat, and it was like, oh, maybe she actually sort of got over this fear or whatever. And then for Negan, I mean, he's back now, right? Like, he's actually his old self again, if anything, a little bit crazier. So, yeah, anyways, I'm gonna leave it here. Definitely post all your thoughts down below. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.